I say I'm Kenyan, right? Like I say, okay, I'm Kenyan. But do I feel like a Kenyan? Maybe this is a controversial thing to say, but but I don't like I don't feel.
There's no such thing. I don't
like,
know. Yeah. Who knows? But
because I don't feel Kenyan really. Yeah. Like when I go back home, that's the one place that I just feel like I'm just I'm out of sync. Like I'm just there for family, or like I'm just there not really to make music, or even if I make music, it's not like thinking in my career-wise. I'm just making music for just the sake, because I like it. But when I'm there, it's like, I don't know where to play. I don't know. I don't have friends. I don't have
that pressure. Does it ever get you like, maybe I should carry a flag a bit more often?
No, like I'm okay when people say African. Okay, African is a bit much. But when people say Ugandan producer, I'm like, I don't take it in a bad way. Like they say I'm a Kenyan producer, I'm like, okay. Just the end goal is that they're trying to say I'm from Africa and I'm black. So like, you know, whatever it is, you know. Like,
and how does that strike?
It's okay. You're so chill. For me, it's okay. Like it doesn't really bother me so much, because I think when I left Kenya to come to Uganda, like number one, I just came here to study. I didn't really come here in a plan to like, oh, I'll be making music. No. That just happened when I was in university that I got into Fruity Loops. But so that when this has happened here, I go back to Kenya and I'm like, I kind of, not even because of my own like drive to connect with my country, but more like people say, you should connect more with your home. You know, you should connect more with
that's the thing. Is they realize they left you out, but now you escaped.
No, not even the Kenyans. Not the Kenyans.
Yeah.
This is other people. This is like
just like friends who are saying that stuff.
This is like friends. This is like people in Europe being like, you should work more with local MCs. You should work more with.
That's kind of interesting that you've got like guys who aren't from Kenya who are telling you it'd be great if you went and became more Kenyan.
Because people like,
which is what
I'm trying to say too.
No, but listen, they say that. And at one point, I made the mistake of thinking maybe I should like try and connect with. And I went home and I did like one gig, because of course, when people see you're doing well, they want to invite you to your thing, as you said. So I went back to Kenya. I'm like, okay, I'll play the show. Even though I knew this is not the crowd. This is not the venue.
It's not the stage.
It's not the stage. Like these people won't. And so I get there and I plug in my shit. I play for like 10 minutes, and then the guy pulls out the RC.
He's like,
He just pulls it out. Number one, he's white, so you know that's also a different conversation there. Yeah, it's not like a bad thing towards him, just something to point out. Because it was like, I don't know if he felt privileged or what, I don't know.
But that happened to me, and it wasn't a white person.
Yeah, it happens every time.
Just someone who said, bro, wrong stage.
But this guy, exactly. But this time I felt like I should point it out just because it felt different. It felt off. I've had people come to me and they do they plug in shit, they say shit, but it's like they don't take it the way this guy took it. He took it a bit more, I don't know, but it's okay. So the point is they pulled it out, my cable, they plugged into whatever they were playing and they continued playing without telling me anything. I wasn't pre-warned, I wasn't told anything. So I just went out and it's awkward. Because, you are in front of a stage and then this shit happens in front of everyone and it's like... And then I just walked off and I didn't know whether to stay, have a drink, go away.
You should have stood right in front of your decks and the entire time pretending like you were DJing their music and just been like, come on guys, you feel this? And just pressing buttons that do nothing.
I wish I was not so emotional to do that.
Yeah, that's
but I was
strong. I mean, that's just a fucking rude thing to do to someone though.
But I don't think I'm strong. I just think I handled it differently. I just packed up and walked away, went outside, sat outside because I couldn't get a ride till like 6 a.m. and then But the point is, it's not really an obligation that because you're Nemesis from where and where that you need to always carry these people, It's like, it's okay if these people see you through their lens, where it's like, okay, Nemesis from this city, from Uganda, so-and-so, he does this and this. But as long as you know who you are, right? You know what you do. You know the quality in what you do.
I hope. I keep trying to change.
Yeah, everyone says that, but deep down, like they know.
It's true.
Everyone says that. Everyone's
It's
like,
true. Although
really
the real
says-
me, I don't really know who that is, to be honest. Because,
No,
like I
yeah,
said, I've been
but that's
trying to
true.
change
But
shit
you know,
for a
but
long
you know
time
the
now.
value in what you do. Like you've seen it. You've seen the shows you can get. You've seen
Yeah.
the girls who run up to you and
Yeah.
you know so and so. You know the value. Like
Being told you have to check IDs.
everything else is just you trying to be humble, which you know every artist does. Oh yeah. But every artist, so true. But deep down you really know, like it's a real thing. You know, everyone tries to be all humble and shit, but like deep down, Alim knows that his photos are good. I just have
Keep looking at him and giving him the praises. What the fuck?
Leave me alone, bro.
Can I throw
take
light
some
on
of this.
something?
So
Can I
don't hide.
throw light on something?
Yeah.
Knowing you've done a fair bit of international touring, you too. This whole categorizing of you need to identify more with
your
Kenya
home.
or Uganda. Now, you will tell us your experience. You've shared with us a bit of it. You'll
Yes,
tell us more.
yes.
What I'm really trying to ask is, do you think that they do that because you are supposed to be regarded as alternative music?
No, it has nothing to
Sort
do
of like
with
as
that.
an other to the regular mainstream. Maybe not alternative as like that category, but you're seen as like you can't just be pop. You have to be African pop. Like
not
you're an
exactly.
alternative of the norm.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
there's that. But what I'm really trying to say is because if you are just like everyone else, then they'll feel like, well, you're not that special at all.
No. Here's the thing. Like even if you make the most, the best reggae track in history, like technically all the professionals agree this is the best. Still, like the fact that you're black will be part of the conversation.
This is reggae by a Ugandan, very black as it is.
and it's you know it's sort of like you can't really blame them because you know they grew up in a society where everything needs a story, like a story to
But
make
that's
it
everyone.
good.
That's why I
No,
try
no,
to
no, no.
fragment the story.
Not everyone.
All the time.
Not everyone. Like you will find small bits and pieces where people just like shit and they don't care. Like you listen to something, you don't care where that rapper is from.
True, it's
You just
good.
you know it's a
just
good track.
nice. It's a vibe.
It's just a good track. But when this is more the media that they try to
Box everything.
they try to package
Wait,
it in a
is
way that will seem
Is it the media appealing to the consumers or is it the other way around? Because I feel like
No.
the consumers already have that bias. It's called a confirmation bias.
Do consumers know what they want though?
that's the
That's
thing.
what I'm saying. They know what they want. That's why they inform the media to tell them what they should
No.
want.
The media really, I feel like the media really
Directs.
shaped the society.
Yeah, I think media determines what people will eventually want to like.
Exactly.
Let alone people liking something in the media presenting answers to their wants and needs. I think people eat what they're given. And it's a
Yeah.
terrible thing to say, but it's a lot like that's why experimental music has a place in the world because it's really not what you're given on a regular basis. That's why alternative isn't pop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you know, like and it's more like not that the media is trying to be validated by the consumer. I mean, they do that through money, you know, like
Exactly.
that's
Which-
their way
which
of
is now
feeling
a
validated. But
crazy
we're
link.
talking about the creative side, you know, they won't try to appeal to the people necessarily by telling them how, you know, like how the music is good. I don't know how to describe it. Let me give an example. Like the Pitchfork, right? Pitchfork is seen as this big magazine, music review thing. But when they review your track, right? And they say this track is fire. And they don't say, okay, this guy is from Kenya. They don't say the color of your skin. They don't say your age. They don't say anything. They just say this track is good. The people who read it are sort of like filtering validation through the media. Like they accept what the media gives them. The media says this shit is good, they accept it. The media says this shit is bad, they accept
They'll
it.
trash it.
So when Pitchfork says, okay, they give a track 1 out of 10, people will instinctively think the track is bad. When they say it's 9 out of 10, everyone will think, oh, it's fucking good, you know? And especially with bigger publications, because those are the only ones that matter, even though sometimes they don't write the best way. But when they say something is great, people will listen to it regardless. They don't need to add all this other shit, but they still do, just because it's more of a societal thing where
Categorizing.
Like categorize, like you need to
White,
specify.
black, woman, man.
Exactly, like.
Yeah.
Like
it's
some
an
kind of
unfortunate
like
circumstance that proves our herd mentality, which is just the fact that like if enough people say it's great, everyone's going to start nodding their heads and saying their thumbs will slowly start to rise, and if everyone says it's bad, their thumbs slowly starts to go down.
There's something about creators learning that, where now you can pay for a write-up with a big blog or magazine, you know, knowing that
cheat.
If I can give them a carrot, you know, to get me up there, I'm good, because then I will have gotten that validation without having to work for it.
I mean, think about the Oscars, you know, like think about all that shit, you know. These things sometimes have like back deals, like you know, this studio company.
There's a kickback somewhere, you know, like
they bribe but not really bribe, you know. They know what they're doing.
Like,
there's a way they do.
Is that why your name is SLIKBACK? I could have made a connection here. Is that why your name is SLIKBACK? You said it's a kickback. It's just SLIKBACK.
No. My name has nothing to do with like a well thought out thing. It just it was just from the Boondocks. It was just a thing in the Boondocks. A pimp named SLIKBACK.
I was so glad that you admitted this, because I was about to just gas you up on camera and just be like, I know where your name comes from, bro. It's ridiculous.
It just comes from like some shit. Yeah,
it's so weird for me how because I mean, for me the whole categorizing of black actually could have been and has been an opportunity. I've seen it a couple of times, but when I can see it is when I was on tour. I remember that there was a meeting. Universal was trying to sign, was creating a label of sort, an experimental label, you could call it, but maybe not so experimental, because they knew that these guys had already taken over the African market. They were discussing about Wizkid, guys like Casper Nyovest, Nasty C, and what's this other guy, Davido. Why? Because all the clubs in Europe are popping when African music is playing. Like, I had to be there for real to see it, because I didn't believe it, you know.
Afrobeat is massive, man.
Yeah.
Which part of the world was this?
This was Europe. This was like in Germany, Poland. Yeah.
Man, I know like the UK and France and stuff like that. They're crazy for Afrobeats because they have enormous African populations.
Actually, when I went the other side, I thought it'd be more UK and because even everything is more UK. Like,
it's kind of amazing the fact that like Afrobeat is becoming what Africa is putting out as the pop to the world.
Yeah, it's a proper export.
Yeah.
But now, for example, I had that they had a meeting in Berlin, and I was like, okay. Even me knowing about the meeting is because, one, I'm black and I've just come from Africa, and I was performing at this festival, right? And they thought it's my need to know basis, and they assumed that I'm already on that level anyway. So I properly could have gotten into the meeting if I didn't. You know, I had a habit of not paying for the freaking trains. Because at first, you know, like that's, again, it's my problem with identity.
That's so real, bro.
I figured at first, okay, I guess trains are for free, because in the movies, I don't see anybody paying for the train. The only people they ask for tickets for in the movies,
you never see them going to the thing.
Trains, where they're still showing black people in the back.
You don't see them going, like sliding in the ATM card,
show me
like typing.
So I just walked in the train and I was supposed to go for the meeting. Unfortunately, I didn't make it.
Oh shit. Okay.
But the point is, I had access to a meeting of like guys who have seriously kicked ass on the African continent for a while.
Yeah.
And just the fact that I was on stage at a festival and I had, you know, done my bit.
Yeah.
People thought that, you actually, you could have that opportunity. And I just fucked it up, you know. But the point is, they didn't give it to other people who I was with, who are white. Yeah.
But if you think about it, like when you know, let's say Wakaliwood, right? Wakaliwood, let's say it was a bigger company. It was like a big company, like, you know, like the shit that makes Nollywood and shit. And they make the same movie they made, like just like a comedy, like a B type movie, you know. People would might still like it, but not to the level that they like it when it's someone.
You're saying
so it's sort
there's
of
an
like
element of sadistic.
No. It's more like when you talk about something, you always add, like, you're like, oh fuck, like this guy plays like super nice guitar and he's from the village.
That's why. That's my point.
It's not like
is you did not expect it to come from the village.
It's not like a sadistic thing. It just adds to the already great thing. You know what I mean? So, for example, you like
the perception was negative. That
no, it was
from the village.
Yeah, the fact the fact that you think that the village makes this kind of thing, and then you see this guy making like rock music from the village, it will be like, yes, you like the music, but this thing adds like an extra level.
And it's an intriguing tag.
You know, it's like it's like bonus up. It's like Super Mario. You know, you jump on the mushroom and then you're like. That's like being black. It's like being black is like that. Like really, like they're like, especially being black from like East Africa is like the star where you're like you're invincible.
That's so weird though.
But it's just a society thing, you know. It's just
East Africa
like
seems to be like all being black.
But if you think about it, but if you think about it, it's sometimes not even about race. It's sort of just more of a one up that you have over other people. You know what I mean?
Accepted story that already they accept.
It's more like you're already good, right? But the fact that you're from here is even, you get endorphins thinking about it. You feel happy. You feel happier knowing that you're from here. So they don't really like.
It's that tag on every speaker system. Extra bass,
exactly. Like that's like that extra
all
bass.
The time. Yeah, it gets me all the time.
But I would like some extra bass.
But the thing is, we always think about it with everything. You see a small speaker that you don't expect that small speaker to be loud, and you hear it, and it's like pumping. Like if it was a bigger speaker, you really wouldn't feel
I expected
the same way you feel.
Mm.
Exactly. Just the fact that you don't expect that small speaker to pump out. It's sort of like a extra level of I don't know, man. But it's sort of what we experience, each one of us. We show our photos, we share our stories, we show our films, we show our music, we share our art, share our drawings. But the fact that we are from here adds to it. And it doesn't mean that what you do is any less good because they're just looking at it from, it just so happens that that's how the world works. And it's fucked up to say. And, do I think it should change? I don't know if I want it to change, honestly.
But that was my point. For me, it's like a good thing. Should you take it by force?
No.
Or should you work with it?
You just work with it. Just go with it.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, you say I'm from Uganda. Yeah, I'm from Uganda. Let's go.
In regards to what you're saying about taking it by force. In regards to what you're saying about taking it by force, I would argue in saying that like maybe you don't have to take people by force from where you came from. I think the merit of what you're doing should be understood internationally enough to say that they'll come if they're willing to listen to it, and they'll come if it's in their taste. And this brings me around to like, if I could ask you about like your experience with this, because I remember sometime last year when we were on, like when I joined you for your tour and we were just hanging about, having a wonderful time.
Yeah.
I remember we had a lot of discussions about Africa stages.
Yeah.
About like the fact that it's pretty ridiculous that like they still have Africa stages and a lot of festivals that have like electro stages or dub stages, but don't have one stage that encompasses the entire continent where everyone from like a guy from here and a guy from 2 towns over will sound completely different, let alone here to Nigeria or some shit.
Yeah.
So I remember there was some point where, and I wanted to ask you more in regards to your experience.
Yeah.
Could you trace a point in history or a point in your own time in your own career where like you got the escape velocity to get off those stages, where like you went from being the guy who was put on Africa stages to then just being SLIKBACK, the dope producer who's being put into the dark rooms?
Yeah.
Because there must have been a point where like that escape velocity was suddenly evident and you were like, holy shit, they're no longer pigeonholing me.
Yeah.
I'm now just being appreciated for like the great artist I am.
Yeah.
Was there a certain point where you could feel like that tilt happened?
Yeah, for sure. Initially, people didn't really know what I play in my sets because most people at the time, they just don't know you, but they know your name is around and they know you're from here, so let's just put this guy here. But the more people heard what I do, I feel like gradually I started seeing myself next to acts that I respect, and that not that I don't respect African acts, I really respect them, but more like sonically what I'm into.
Within your genre, the guys you
within
were like
my genre,
idolizing
exactly.
for sound purposes.
Exactly. So it's more like the quantity of people that started listening is what helped me not be pigeonholed. Because enough people saw what I do that they saw where it fits, sort of. But it also comes down to it's gonna sound super shitty to say, but I genuinely think that if I was to be in the same stage like 10 years later, like I'm still playing to the same Africa this, Africa that, I would really think that my music is not that good. Because I feel like
it's not a shitty thing to say.
Because I feel like if your music is good enough, it should escape. So I feel like for me, I also started, I tried to perfect what I do. I tried making things that I feel are better. I learned new techniques in mixing. I learned, how to work with different things. I also got into different things. All these things built up to that escape velocity, because it's really like people will always appreciate something that is good, regardless of where it's from. If it's good, it's good. If math is good, it's good.
Yeah. Like for yourself, could you sort of timestamp that to one release that did it for you?
I could stamp it to a stage. I wouldn't stamp it to a release. I would, because when I played two big stages. One was in Barcelona, and one was in, what was it? I think Milan. Those two times when people saw that I'm sort of playing in these bigger stages, it sort of became like
you compounded it.
A kudos, like they're like, oh shit, you played here. So it's like, and at the same time, that was the time when I was also releasing Kite and all these other records that some people appreciate. And it's sort of at that point where it just happened to be a perfect meeting of timing, the stages I'm playing, and the releases I was releasing.
So,
and all these things,
they were not really correlated.
No. It sort of just so happened. It just so happened, luckily, that I was doing this release at this time, and I was also at the same time playing at this stage.
That's the thing I wanted to add about before, but I wasn't sure it would be the right timing. Luck.
Yeah, luck is huge.
Because
not to like give you too much praise here, but bro, luck and the fact that you're incredibly fucking good at what you do.
True.
Like, let's be real about this shit. I haven't had anyone who's put out the quantity of music you've put out and the time you've had, of the career you've had so far.
Yeah.
You've put out some people's lifetimes worth of music in just fucking releases and albums alone.
Thank you.
I think part of it is luck, but another part of it is like being persistent in your trade.
Yeah.
True.
But also maybe it wouldn't have happened this fast,
True.
Because it could be the best, but if I wasn't lucky enough for the right person to hear it and book me for this, it would have been much more slower, and maybe I would have even died before people look back and be like, oh my God, this guy
some
from
artists
so and so,
die to create their luck.
Yeah, and then in the future they look back on the work and then they're like, holy fuck, like this guy was making this shit in 2020.
True.
Holy fuck, this is like, but it's like, you just, sometimes it's luck, honestly. Like, you can be the best, but luck also plays a huge,
when it comes to luck, I see it in two ways. The dwarf, which is unexpected, the agent, who is the individual who either books you or either appreciates your talent, who is already part of society the same way you are.
Yeah.
Right? And the giant, which leads up by society its own self, which could be the black thing we're talking about, because it's the one, like you said, we already have one over because you come from East Africa.
Yeah.
So I would look at that as a lack from society, because society believes that, and some people are not ready.
Yeah, some people are really.
Some people could find a SLIKBACK and not be ready for it, and that would be a detriment to SLIKBACK, no?
But that's like almost, I would say, 70% of the people who listen to my music, they don't like it. Like, they're not, and it's maybe that they weren't ready for it also, because when you kind of know, okay, it's experimental music, you would think of it differently.
you already get a bias.
Yeah, you're already like expecting
Something I'm not used to. I don't know if I like it or not.
Yeah, and
There's
so
already
it's
that
already
thing
gonna
of
be like
there's already that thing of hold on.
Doubts.
Yeah.
If it hits me wrong,
yeah.
if it hits me right, I will warm up a bit to it.
That's
So
exactly it. Yeah.
If you then have experimental music, I guess by nature of the name and the packaging, everyone is already approaching it with a lot of caution.
Yeah, but that can be a good thing.
Yeah,
I think
really, really, really good thing, or it can be a really bad thing.
Because you then crystallize their attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because they already are going to listen to it technically.
They're waiting
They're waiting to hate. Yeah, that's also a thing. But yeah, I feel like they do listen to it technically, and they're like, okay, Nemesis is releasing an experimental
track.
Album, right? And so they don't go into it with the mentality that it's hip hop, and then they listen to hip hop.
Just like I know,
and like, what the fuck is this shit?
You're expecting to be intrigued by something because
You're
the word
expected to be
experimental gives
intrigued.
that
Exactly.
that idea of like it's not what you think.
So that's why experimental music fails, and it also succeeds at the same time.
You know what?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know,
It kind of raises the stakes for the song to be perfect or terrible in the sense that like if the experimentation was right, you made gold. If the experimentation was terrible, you just killed everyone in the room.
Yeah.
That's the way chemistry works.
But if they come into it, expecting something they know, it's gonna be a shit show.
Can I ask this, right?
Really?
When it comes to experimental music, any experimental piece of art is always very there's a level of we view it differently, really.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to put this out.
Yeah.
For every one of us, how far down the rabbit hole of experimental music or experimental art have you found yourself and you said, you know what? This is for me rock bottom of experimental. If I ever find anything more repulsive than this or just as shocking like this, then I know.
So is this based off of things that we like expose ourselves to or stuff we'd make ourselves that's like really experimental and we're like, no, I went too far with that?
Like things we consume.
Things we consume.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, this is never ending. This is just the dark side of YouTube. Not even YouTube, mate. It's the dark side of different streaming platforms.
But actually, I'm curious. What is experimental photography for you? I really see you like an experimental photographer. When you do work, that's work. But when you are just doing your thing because it makes you happy, I do see it like a very experimental thing you do. Like the way you play with light and shit.
Well, to me, the nature of photography is the science of contortion and capturing light in different ways. And that's why, to me, experimentation in photography is usually trying to do very obscure long exposures, trying to make the camera shutter stay open for like a minute at a time whilst using different lights in different areas to illuminate a room.
Would you say the art comes from you changing the mechanics of the tools you're working with? Because I don't understand so much of what you've been talking about from the technical point.
Okay, yeah.
But it seems like by playing with the shutter speeds, you're actually holding the tool, which is
unconventional.
But then you try to actually break its speed or the patterns in between to create.
Well, to me, the
else.
Unconvention comes out of whether or not you as the audience can determine if you knew how I took the picture.
Yeah.
And
I feel like this is the same also for at least most musicians that I know. And also me that are in experimental music. I mean, some of them, you know, it's clearly just they know what works and then they do it to get the results. But the people who do it at heart, they're trying to
reinvent,
make you listen to something and technically not know how they did that.
Yeah.
Like that's how I found also myself. Like,
I think a group recently that's been fucking with me like that is JPEG Mafia.
JPEG Mafia. Yeah.
Great example.
He's a perfect example of that. Like, you listen to it and you don't know how.
Like I can hear songs in there, but I can't tell
how he gets there.
It's so well done.
And then even outside of the people who understand how, you know, for example, Fruity Loops works or whatever, just the layman, just the normal guy listening to shit, the way they would perceive experimental music is they wouldn't know how you came up with the idea. The mystery is basically what experimentation is.
Complicate the process.
Not even you can complicate, you can oversimplify, you can minimalize, you can do so much.
Really a breakthrough here.
With processes like this, every time someone is trying to get into the back room of how was this made, one of the first things they'll ask is, if it's software, they want to know what software did you use.
Because
if it's a software,
keyboard, all of that stuff.
exactly. If it's a software they're familiar with, then they'll be like, now I'm interested. If it's a software they've never used, they'll be like, yeah, I think it's I don't think I know how to do that. You know?
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, the level of experimentation went into trying to get just mixes that stand out. If someone came to me with a song and they gave me a reference, right? And if I knew, I might go and Google who produced the song, the reference they're giving me, or who mixed it. If I know the engineer who mixed it, then that means I know their techniques, or at least I know as far as they have been able to say out there, you know? Because I know a lot of engineers will hide their secrets or whatever. And so, and even for me, that's how I think. Every time someone gives me a reference to a song I'm supposed to mix, they'll always say, I want my thing to sound like this. So off my head, I only use my ears. And what now I'm thinking is, how do I use a different tool and a different approach to achieve this?
The same,
You know, if I hear there's a lot of clarity in a certain frequency range, then I'm like, okay, that's all I need. If it's really crisp and bright but not harsh, that's all I need to hear. If the bass is really pumping, and bass being the beat of all frequencies, very hard to control, then you have to think of different ways of approaching that. So once I find a way of twisting a convention, and with mixing, there's so many tools with hardware, with software, and every software allows you to work in different ways. Once I figure that out and achieve the required goal, that for me in itself is experimentation. Knowing that I didn't go to a particular book or listen to any technique that has been documented out there, and that experimentation may not exactly be creating something that is very different, but it's more the approach I use to achieve something that is
from a different technique.
Yeah.
When it's experimentation, too much experimentation.
It's never too much experimentation. But there's a point you will get where it's hard for you to see what's next. You can give someone software that does everything. It does 3D, it does videos, it does editing, it does music, you know. But what he can do with it is limited
how far
by
his mind will.
Yeah, and that's
the
the thing
course?
that most people don't understand about experimental music, is that it's really less about how they are doing it and more about who they are, what they experienced, how they perceive things, you know.
So like, what's the ethos behind the experimentation? Not just what the change is, but why they made the change.
Why they're making it, who they are, even just who they are affects experimental music in like so many ways. And that's why I feel like most experimental artists who are really successful, if you look into their lives, they're really into some dark shit, you know. And it's not because they want to be into it, but just because if you follow through, you will find their story and the way their brain works, their brain chemistry and all that. Like, it's very in tune with what they're doing, you know. Like, you can't just bring anyone into experimental music and expect them to make a masterpiece, you know. Like, it's very rare that you find really successful ones, just because it's so hard to find that perfect combination of things, of background, of ethnicity, of how you talk, of which school you went to, what hardships you experienced, that make you think about things. And yet you still have to do with luck. And at the end of it all, it still ends up being, are you just limited by your software, or are you just your brain your just brain can't do it? And that's like how experimental music is. Like, some people's brains.
There's something he did say, with music, it feels like the play field is limitless, but there is a limit. There's a term, listenability. If it's very repulsive and can't even be listened to, terming that as experimental music, right, is going to be hard, because I can't just wake up one morning and play white noise or one signal and let that go on for 5 minutes and put that out as experimental music. It's going to be hard to classify that because of the term listenability.
But
that's why you build the context around it.
Context. I see what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. But here's the interesting thing, like the fact that you do it and just put it out, it won't make any sense, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
But I have had white noise concerts like for hours, like people going hard for like 1 hour. Yes, I do experimental music, but experimentalism is also like a taste. It's like within that there are still things.
Something too salty.
There are still things
And
that
to be fair, like, I remember
God
whilst I
damn.
was going on tour with you,
This is
and
too much.
I don't mean to rag on anyone who was playing before or after you, but there were a couple guys who came on stage before Slick played in some of those events where it was those sorts of crowds where like it was a lot of people standing around in polo necks who were just like, yeah, it's the bass.
But this
Dirty. It was just a lot of guys just making gun faces. And
But this is the thing.
There is a market for it.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Like some people who are just experimenting for the sake of experimenting, it won't work. It won't work.
Yeah.
But if their brain,
It's not exactly expressive.
it's not expressive, and they don't even have a reason for it.
It has to
But some
relate.
people really do have like context. It's all about context. Some people have like dementia, and they are working in their 80s, working on stuff that when you listen to it now, you're like, fuck, what the fuck is this? I have that also. Like it's not like I'm any different. Like I have attended some concerts where I was like, what the fuck am I listening to? But I still have to understand that they are doing it not because for the sake of it, but they are successful at what they do, and they're playing at this venue because they have a reason for it. Some people have like, I know an artist who actually one of my favorites, and he or she has like he's schizophrenic, and for a few years he or she has gone off the grid, and I think he or she might be dead. I'm saying he or she because I don't know. Yeah. And the thing is, when I listen to the music, is like I appreciated the music before knowing that he or she is schizophrenic. But when I learned that all the pieces connected, and sometimes that's all you need. Like context isn't to make you like it or not, but just so that you can see how the pieces fit.
Oh yeah.
And if it's not your
Just
thing,
a little
it's not your
trail.
thing,
It's a
If it's exactly. If it's your thing, it's your thing.
That
If-
moment of
exactly.
I see. Okay, now it makes
Start
sense.
to
It
follow
makes
the
sense,
footsteps.
yeah. And even then, if you don't like it, that's still okay. But you'll find that there are people who do like that, those kind of things. People who watch films not for the sake of having a good, like, it's kind of weird to say, but not for the sake of having a good time.
Yeah.
But sort of to be
Being
technically
shocked.
pleased.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
I know what you mean.
That's-
like
me and
they
dreams.
like,
That's me and dreams.
yeah.
I have quite a kick with nightmares because they just rush me with adrenaline. So I've got myself hooked on that. A proper scary dream. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, like also my girlfriend Morgiana, she's like, I think the first time I discovered, I always knew about experimental music, but she showed me more harsh things that make me want
Things
to
that
ask
push the
why.
boundary.
Why is it like that?
Things that push the boundary.
Exactly. And when you kind of, and after that I went on this whole journey of discovering this kind of things, and my music also changed because I sort of started asking why. Like, yes, sometimes I just like the sound, I like it, that's how I usually work. But I always at the back of my head ask myself why. And while in the past I found it harder to describe my music, even though I might still make the same track I made like maybe last year, now I can explain it better than the me back then. Because back then I liked it, but I didn't know why. Most people like pop music, but they don't know why they like pop music. They like that, they like the Billboard playlist, but they don't know
understand why they're so
they don't
hooked to it.
understand why they're so hooked to it. But if these people started asking why, they would slowly move into other things in music.
Yeah,
like
the equation
which-
of music and emotion.
Yeah, those-
Which
start
was
liking other
going to
shit,
be,
so-
I was about to ask if then isolation is the key because experimentation isolates.
No, experimentation opens you up, really, because the more you experiment, the more you see how even your fucked up sounds, according to whoever, that they please you. you know, you are ready, you're more open to giving other things a shot, you know. You're like, oh shit, if I like this, you know, maybe I might like this.
So it's
maybe
more for yourself.
Exactly, it's for you. It's for you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like people who travel, you know. For me, experimental, actually, this is a perfect way to say it. Experimental music is like traveling. Like, you know, you can stay in Kenya or Uganda your whole life, and you can have a certain view of things. You know, things are like, you know, it rains in the, you know, in June, it was blah blah blah. You know, but the moment you go out there and start seeing other buildings and other things, even when you come back, you start appreciating things that you start seeing. Okay, fuck, this building actually is made of this material and it's fucking great. That's for me, like when I was studying, because I was studying architecture. When I was in school, I saw people over explaining things, and initially when I was in the first part of the semester, also when I moved out into the world, I used to think people over explain things too much. Like people go into too much detail about why this building was constructed with this color, with this. I'm just like, what the fuck? Just live in the building. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But the more I grow and the more I appreciate things more, the more I start thinking, holy fuck, actually, this actually enhances something. It adds something. There's a reason to this. There's a reason to that. And also in movies, like the more I started watching stuff about actors and about directors and how they do their thing, I started going back to film and looking, holy fuck, that was a 1 minute shot.
Intended this and intended that.
Yeah, like holy fuck, that was a 1 minute shot. That if I wasn't like experimenting with my brain, trying to check out everything and try to see what is in film, I would have just seen it and just not really appreciated it as much. But the more you experiment, it doesn't like isolate you at all. Like experimentation fucking opens up a whole other world.
But isn't that what you need then to do it, to open? Because
exactly.
You need to get away
and
to open.
And it's a feedback loop. Yeah. You open up for it, and you learn, you create, and then your creations lead you to. It's sort of like you just end up growing and growing.
And I think maybe the why for pop music is a confusion that has a signature.
No, I feel like in pop music it's like I love pop music. I love pop music. I love radio. I love, you know, all this stuff that in the mainstream.
I love pop music too.
Do I like all music? No. But the things I like because of very personal reasons.
There's a connection to it.
Exactly. Like it's very personal reasons that you might not
relate to.
Yeah. So pop music is just one thing that generalizes a bigger context. I don't know how to describe it, but let's say piano. People like a good melody, right?
Yeah.
You put a good melody over a good beat, and you have right there. You have pop music, really. So it's not really like pop music
is necessarily bad. Yes.
It has just generalized a bigger context. It has everyone likes beans. Everyone likes chapati. Let's make chikomando, you know, and it becomes a staple food.
Double happiness.
It's a combination of things that you should like. And that's why pop has the fame it does, because I mean, it's like, it is music designed to be things that you should enjoy, in the sense that most of the time it's major chords, it's very few minors a lot of the time.
Exactly.
It's designed to like lift your heartbeat up to the right rhythm. And it's quite mathematically and scientifically just like shit that makes you feel right.
Yeah. How does that explain genres like cropping up and then all genres falling down from the pedestal of pop because that happens?
No, it's just people exactly the way right now. There's this now creation of people who say, I hate mainstream music, I hate pop music.
That's what I'm saying.
It starts
a confusion
like
with a signature.
No. These are just people who are looking for something else. You know, some people are content with status quo. You know, they are content with going to work every day. Does that, you know, they are content with going to church every weekend.
That's them.
They can accommodate more of that for longer. Some people
just
the
can't.
cup just gets full and they're like,
Exactly.
I want a new cup and I'm going to fill it with something else.
Exactly. And then they sort of and right now with pop music, we are now at the stage where it's changing. You know, pop music is pop music, but it always changes.
Yeah, it's
pop music slowly changes to meet with the new needs. Let's say people are tired of fucking right. They'll stop listening to it slowly. First, the people who can't tolerate shit, they will leave faster, and then you go to people who are kind of okay, but they pretend to be okay most of the they go. And then the people who are just okay with anything also are like, fuck this, we can't just listen to the same shit forever. but for them it takes longer. I
feel like those are the majority.
Sometimes they even die without have realized that they're sick of it.
When you have a playlist and you have your playlist, you're going to DJ.
Yeah.
And you want to read your crowd so well.
Yeah.
Because if how you've arranged your playlist is not working, I want to readjust that. And I want to watch how they're reacting to that. So you start off and you're like, they're vibing to it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you realize you're like, so I had planned to change, but I feel like that point I wanted to change is a bit too, this is going on for too long. So if I can change that now, let me watch their reaction.
Yeah.
If you change in the moment, and it might be BPM, it might be just how intense, maybe, more bass heavy or really, heavily melodic. And then you realize, not working. Or if it's working, you're like, let me hold this, but I already know that this crowd is getting tired of the same thing.
Yeah. And this is this side of music.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is the side of music that you are in. Like you are one of the most technical people I know, number one. So for you, music is very technical, but for me, it's very emotional.
Yeah.
So, for example, like you would think about it that way, while I would be like, I will go. If they disconnect my cable, they disconnect. If they fuck this guy, I'm fucking playing this shit.
You cut shit off. You're playing as a loop straight into your own headphones. Instead, enjoying that shit.
I just be in it,
And I plug my headphones anyway.
Yeah, but it's not from a cynical point of view. It's more like they called me to play stuff that I like. Why not play stuff that I like? If they don't like it, it's okay. It's also fine. I can just leave. No problem. But so this is because you're more of a pop producer and more into this side of music.
Yeah.
So for you, your technicality is to give people the most amount of pleasure you can give them.
Yeah.
If that means making the track sound as good as it can be, you do that. You make it as good as it can be, and then they appreciate it. So think about it in the larger scale, where you have all these pop producers, all these pop artists. They're just giving the people what they want. It's not that pop music is bad. It's just that people really want it. And it keeps going. And the second these people start hating it or they get fed up with it, it just slowly fucking switches.
And then that's how you find artists looking for how
and this is
transition.
And it's and then it turns from old school hip hop, it turns to crank. Crank turns to basic crank. Basic crank turns to trap. And people think trap is the shit now. But it's just they haven't gotten sick of it yet.
They haven't, and it's
we are still in the process.
But there was a time when they were actually sick of it. We started to have underground trappers coming up because people started saying,
because people wanted
mainstream and we're tired. We like this.
Because people wanted that.
These guys pop, and now they put you on a pedestal and they're like, I'm just tired of looking at you. I would like something different on this.
And then you have people who start going back to music from the 60s or 50s because there were people back then who are too experimental for the time. Like, I don't use the phrase too experimental like it's too experimental. Just it was too much for everyone, for the people around them. Exactly.
They were just in the dark.
They were just too far
ahead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then just now they're being appreciated, and now they are trying to take what they did back then and reinvent and repurpose it. Let's say, repurpose it, put new, fresh take on it, and then we'll get new genres, and like it'll never stop. Like pop music will never stop simply because people will keep calling it pop music. You know what I mean? Like it's really not pop music at some points. Because if you take this music and take it back in the day, they'll be like, whoa, like, what the fuck is this shit? It's like you're now the experimental guy of the time. But now the masses have been tapered to a point where they've been conditioned to like certain things.
Yeah.
And so we are slowly being conditioned to like pop music, this like the new pop
thing.
music.
Yeah.
But then after we are into it, we know,
phase
we
out.
kind of, we phase out slowly. And then the industry has to supply, they have to sell records.
Yeah.
So they start thinking how to shock people or how to bring in the new thing, how to bring in a fresh take on pop music, even though it's not pop music anymore. It's like rock mixed with some other shit that becomes what we call pop music. It's like, it never ends really.
I think from what I've learned from our discussion is to develop a latency phase between, at least for myself, how I experiment is instead of just getting high off the continuous spiral, perhaps I should develop a way to create a delay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you really need to
delay.
Or an incubation.
Yeah, kind of like a bit of what we were talking about before when you were saying, when Wana was saying that he wants sometimes to let the idea, and then you said sink, and then I was like, whoa, that's quite a way to see, because then it soaks up.
Yeah, yeah. And while, as you said, like for you and you, like maybe sitting on it and letting it, like works, that leads you to make something amazing, right? For me, that doesn't work, and that doesn't mean that my technique is better than your technique. It's just I'm taking a photo, you're painting, maybe you're like you're in the fine details, I take photos like I snapshot the moment, because I will lose it the second I walk away from it. Actually, the more I let it sit, the more I overthink it, and the more I think it's shit. And so there's this whole sub-genre of guys who take photographs in music, guys who paint in music, guys who make films in music.
I think my process is more like yours, but with a faster pace. Because I then just...
So you're like...
then I need to develop
and come back.
So this is so that's
from you.
So that's your your form. That's your form of art. Yeah. Exactly.
Like then have maybe a more stable trigger, because I feel like you're addicted to a trigger.
There's something.
Yeah, I feel like I'm addicted to that.
How Nemesis approaches, just how he fits in, like knowing I have recorded a bunch of like a lot of music with him, and some of it when he sends me a beat from, could it be another producer? In this case, anyway, a beat that another producer made.
Yeah,
he shares it with me, and he will obviously ask, "What do you think?" And I normally tell him, I'm like, and the very consistent answer is, I'm very curious to hear what you're going to make of this. Because I know his mind is so, it's like the gears just change. It's like differential gears and linear gears just sort of change.
Yeah,
so
and you know what I think about him is like he's sort of a combination of how we process things.
Yeah.
So he gets a beat, right?
Yeah.
He has to sit on it. Like he can't just, unless it's a freestyle. Yeah. So he sits on the beat. He's like he thinks about how he's gonna tackle it, which verse he's gonna, and then he goes into the studio and it's a photograph.
Exactly.
He photographs the painting he just made.
He will take he will take some time to come up with the idea, but he takes a very short time.
Yeah, execution.
Yeah. So that's sort of like a combination of these two things.
I think this has been really great, because actually what that has done for me is to see it. I mean, I can relate because that's how it is. But now I see it. It's more, I don't know how to explain it. It's more like how I can see the fucking light.
The point is definitely across.
Now really touch it.
Yeah. You don't really have that painting in your home, but you have a snapshot of your painting.
Yeah.
That's really your process. And that's, music. People should just, listen to music in their own way.
Yeah.
Not really. Now I'm mumbling, by the way. I'm just now I'm mumbling, to be honest. Now
are we even recording anymore?
I don't even know what the fuck is going on.
We are, but I mean, if you guys want, you can see it there.
Yeah,
cool.
I feel like it's cool.
Yeah,
it's been a really nice time.
That's a nice way to end, honestly, because I just realized I'm hungry as fuck.